Will Pope Leo XIV unleash the traditional Latin Mass? This is the podcast y'all been wanting me to make, and I wanted to give it some time, and I want to give you my sober analysis and assessment of where we are moving into several months of Pope Leo XIV's pontificate. And no overturn of Traditiones Custodes. Yes, we've seen Latin language, we've seen finery, we've seen more decorum in the liturgy, more traditional vestments, but everybody is, rubbing their beard and scratching their head and saying, when will Pope Leo XIV address the traditional Latin Mass? So, I know y'all been asking me to make this show, this episode, and today we're going to do it. And I've traced out some possibilities of what could happen moving into the future. This is based off of an op-ed that I recently wrote for the Washington Times. Can Pope Leo XIV heal the wounds left by Pope Francis? A lot of y'all in my audience have read this op-ed. Came out a few days ago. It's getting a lot of traffic, a lot of commentary. Basically, the link's in the show notes if you want to read it. It's not long. It's an op-ed. The short version of the wounds of St. Francis and can Pope Leo XIV heal them is number one, and this is one of the most important, is Pope Leo needs to overhaul the handling of the way sexual abuse is handled with transparency and justice. I don't think the way that ex-Cardinal McCarrick, that whole situation, I don't think that was just or transparent. The whole situation with Father Rupnik of the Jesuits, who abused nuns. There is reporting allegedly of orgies and using liturgical items, sacramental items in these orgies, and it was only after public outcry and just constantly beating the battle drums that the case was reopened in 2023. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we need to see Pope Leo reaffirm Catholic teaching on marriage, family, and sexuality. It took a big beat down under Pope Francis, particularly with Amoris, particularly with Fiducia Supplicans. And I really hammer in on this point on my new book, which is coming out, Christian Patriot. The most important thing we can do is evangelize ourselves to be saints, to become holy. But the second most important thing that I talk about in the book is we have to define matrimony, sex, male, female, all the basic definitions according to God's definition. That also means we define adultery and concubinage the way God defines it. No plastering over the cracks, no false accompaniment. We use the proper definition. I'm a Thomist, all right? I'm a strict Thomist. Thomas always defines his terms. And there's too much ambiguity from the pontificate of Pope Francis and from Jesuits. I'm not just Francis, priests, bishops, cardinals. There's a whole host of them. And they have fractured. They have caused ambiguity on what does it mean to be married, what does it mean to be in a sacrament of holy matrimony, and what is the family. We don't need a synod. We don't need synod on synodality to tell us what is a family. God told us what a family is. All right, so we need Pope Leo to do that. And then the third thing that I cover in the Washington Times op-ed is I say we need Pope Leo to end the liturgy wars and restore the traditional Latin Mass. And I'll read you a quote from the op-ed. In 2021, Pope Francis issued an unpopular decree restricting the increasingly popular traditional Latin Mass with Traditiones Custodes. With this action, he overturned Pope Benedict XVI's official provision that granted priests the freedom to celebrate the traditional Latin liturgies. His controversial decision failed and has fueled division by alienating Catholics throughout the world. And then I say Pope Leo XIV should repeal Traditiones Custodes and affirm the traditional Mass's rightful place in the Church's inheritance. By mid-2026, he could convene a liturgical conference to promote reverent celebration of both the traditional Latin Mass and the Novus Ordo Mass, ensuring unity through diversity rather than suppression. So this is what we need to happen. And so today I'm going to talk about, is this a real possibility? Today we're just going to focus on the liturgy. We're going to focus on the traditional Latin Mass. And at the end, I will take your super chats, I will take your comments, and we will focus on that. I also want to remind everyone to pray for our brothers and sisters, our Catholic brothers and sisters in Gaza, and to pray for Cardinal Pizzaballa, the Latin Patriarch, and for everyone over there in the Holy Land that's in danger. Do not forget them in your prayers. And before I jump into what I think are the three possibilities of what Pope Leo XIV might do, I want to honor today's sponsor to today's show, and that is iCatholic Mobile. And y'all did a great job blowing them up last week. They're a new sponsor, and they are traditional Catholics, and they're offering a service that I think is very important for us and that I believe in, and here's the reason why. All right, we got modernism attacking the church, attacking the family. And have you ever considered that your mobile phone company is supporting that attack? Every time you make a call, send a text, go online, your provider earns money that too often funds causes directly opposed to our Catholic faith. In the past 5 years, major mobile companies have poured nearly $500 million into woke liberal agendas, including paying employees for abortion travel. And now there is a faithful Catholic alternative, and it's iCatholic Mobile. It's the only Catholic phone company that gives 100% of its profits to traditional Catholic religious orders, monasteries, and media. So whether it's for your family or just you or your business, iCatholic Mobile offers nationwide 5G talk, text, and data on America's largest network, plus personalized service to match your family with the right plan. And when you subscribe, when you switch over, you're not just staying connected, you're helping to defend the one true Catholic faith from the next generation and to help save souls. So I'd encourage you to make the switch, support iCatholic Mobile, and you can do so by reaching out at icatholicmobile.com, icatholicmobile.com, or call 802-988-6588, 802-988-6588. And make sure you told them that Taylor Marshall sent you. You also get 3 months of the Purity Browser, a powerful tool to help you protect your family from the dangers of the internet. So again, make the switch today, iCatholic Mobile, call 802-988-6588, or visit icatholicmobile.com. And I here is the letter I, like iPhone. icatholicmobile.com. Make the switch today. Go over to iCatholic Mobile. Traditional Catholics providing a traditional service. Let's support them. Let's go. All right, back to Pope Leo. I have a timeline, and I realize when I talk about these things, I'm throwing out dates, I'm throwing out motu proprios, and I realize before I tackle this topic today, I want to share a timeline of the traditional Latin Mass and the restrictions and the controversies, etc. All right, so I prepped that for you. I'm going to show it on the screen. It's not a complicated timeline. All right, so in 1969, I believe it was in April 1969, the Novus Ordo was promulgated. And by the way, all this stuff is in my book, Infiltration, if you want to get footnotes and details and dates and names and all that. Then in 1970, the Novus Ordo was published. I should have put in here, in 1965 was a provisional Mass. It was kind of a blend of the 1962 Mass with some of the changes that would appear in 1969. So you already started seeing the Mass sometimes facing the people. You started to see some vernacular. They removed, I think they removed some of the prayers at the foot of the altar. I believe also the option to remove the last gospel was there. That was all 1965. But really, people noticed in 1970. They started showing up at church, and altar rails were being moved. IKEA tables, freestanding altars were being brought in. They were hearing 100% vernacular for the first time, and that was the shocking moment, 1970. It talks about Latin masses being held, in hotels and in garages and, all kinds of places. But it never really went away. And in 1988, as Archbishop Lefebvre was getting older, he consecrated 4 bishops. And this was sort of the lightning strike in the movement. Because at that point, Rome realized, John Paul II realized, and Cardinal Ratzinger realized, this is a big thing. It's not going away. It's international, and we need to address it. So in 1988, and again, I should have put that date on here. In 1988, Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre consecrates 4 bishops, and he continues the SSPX because he knows he's sick. He's getting older. He's going to die. And at that point, there was an alleged late sententiae excommunication. And at that point also, a group of the SSPX did not feel comfortable with that move. And so they met with Cardinal Ratzinger, and they formed the Fraternity of St. Peter, FSSP. And this was the in-house answer to the SSPX and the desire for the traditional Latin Mass. And then the Fraternity of St. Peter started growing and founded a seminary, and the SSPX continued to grow. And that document that created this situation was called Ecclesia Dei, Church of God, Ecclesia Dei. And then eventually you have the Institute of Christ the King and several other groups and religious orders using the 1962 Missal. Again, it was restricted, it was edgy, it was not easy to find. The big change happened after Pope Benedict XVI was elected. And I got B26 there. Man, we're not even there yet. Let me fix that. Benedict XVI was elected in 2005. I'm going to add in here, while we're editing, 1988 SSPX consecrations. And one moment, please. Boom. All right, updated and improved, revised and expanded. Benedict XVI was elected 2005. 2007, 2 years into his pontificate. And I want to pause here because I know a lot of people are saying, Leo has been Pope for this many days. He hasn't done it yet. He's never going to do it. Let's take a deep breath. All right, this is going to be part of my analysis today. 2 years in to being Pope, Pope Benedict XVI surprises the world, and he issues Summorum Pontificum. Summorum Pontificum, in this moment, he lifts any alleged excommunications against SSPX. He says that the traditional Latin Mass has never been abrogated. TLM. In 1969 and in 1970, when it was published, that did not abolish the traditional Latin Mass. A lot of people were saying the traditional Latin Mass is abolished. Stop saying it. It's abolished. It's abolished. It's abrogated. B16 says, Pope Benedict XVI, it was never abrogated. It's always been allowed in the church. And beyond all that, he said every priest in the Roman Rite has the right and the ability to celebrate the traditional Latin Mass. This all happened in 2007. This was a major moment, and it's in 2007 that the traditional Latin Mass movement really started to pick up steam. Suddenly, there were diocesan parishes all over the world who were offering a traditional Latin Mass at 1 p.m. on Sunday, or were offering one at 7 a.m. daily. Some places were offering a traditional Latin Mass, High Mass, at 10 a.m. on Sunday. You could see schedules where it would have a Novus Ordo on Sunday, maybe at 7, and then a Novus Ordo at 9, and then maybe a TLM at 11, and then a Novus Ordo at 5. After 2007, you started seeing this everywhere. And suddenly, people were exposed to the traditional Latin Mass that had not seen it since 1969, 1968. And it started to grow. I started attending the traditional Latin Mass. I joined a Fraternity of St. Peter Mass in 2010. All right, so I joined in the wake of Summorum Pontificum. But then Francis happened. All right. Now, before I go on, everybody like this video, hit the share button, share this video on X, and share this video on Facebook. You are my algorithm. And if you're new, please subscribe. Join the 1.5 million subscribers at the Dr. Taylor Marshall podcast. All right, let's go. Let's do this. In 2013, Pope Benedict XVI sadly resigned. They held a new conclave. Francis was elected. Nothing changed. 2014, 2015, 2016, I could remember, like we would go on pilgrimages to Italy. We would lead NSTI pilgrimages to Mexico City for Our Lady of Guadalupe. We could go to Italy. We could go to the Holy Land. And everywhere we went, we could have our traditional Latin Mass. If the Franciscans there said, wait, you brought your own missal? Wait, you're going to set up Mass on the wrong side of the altar? Wait, we would just say, yeah, we're doing the 1962 Mass. And they're like, I'm not sure if we're comfortable with that. And all the priest had to say was, Summorum Pontificum. There is a motu proprio in the church that gives me the right and the privilege, the ability to celebrate the traditional Latin Mass. And everyone had to be like, well, yeah, I mean, the Pope said that. It's on the books. We technically can't stop you from doing that. And so we had our traditional Latin Masses. And I want to take a moment here. That was actually pretty chill back then. You could go places. You could have traditional Latin Masses at pilgrimage sites. You could have TLM at your local parish. Nobody was firebombing anybody. Some of the nastiness on both sides of this debate, that has arisen, in my perception, since Traditiones Custodes. It was just sort of, you sometimes when you're in Europe and you're with a group of people and they speak English, and then sometimes people switch over into French, and then later at dessert, they're back into English. It was like, I don't like people speaking French or whatever, but it was friendly. And people went along with it. It was okay. Now it's straight up nasty. Now we have a liturgy war. And that's because of what happened in 2021. Pope Francis issued Traditiones Custodes, Latin for guardian of tradition. And he claimed that he used synodality to poll and consult the bishops of the whole world. And he polled them on a number of questions, whether it's causing schismatic tendencies, how it's affecting the priesthood, does it affect unity or division in the diocese, in the parishes, etc. And in 2021, Francis said, after speaking and polling the bishops, doing his synodality, he was concerned. He realized that he was forced to intervene, his word, intervene, because of the overwhelmingly negative feedback that the world bishops were giving him. And so he issued Traditiones Custodes, and he said in that document that the generosity of Pope John Paul II and the generosity of Pope Benedict XVI that was given to people who wanted the traditional Latin Mass was abused. They took it for granted, and they used the traditional Latin Mass as a flag of disobedience and schism. And so in order to correct this over-generous posture of Pope St. John Paul II and Pope Benedict XVI, he had to restrict the traditional Latin Mass. And so he issued Traditiones Custodes. And what Traditiones Custodes said was, no priest can't be trained to say the TLM. No priest can be allowed to say the TLM, and there can be no traditional Latin Mass in the parishes. It has to be restricted to oratories or to Fraternity of St. Peter, Institute of Christ the King, or the former Ecclesia Dei communities. And I say former because he also abolished Ecclesia Dei, which was under the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. So it was a nuclear bomb. I believe the reason that it happened, a lot of people say the reason it happened is because Taylor Marshall made YouTube videos. And Pope Francis and his friends watched the YouTube videos. I'm serious, people say this. They watched the YouTube videos and they said, wow, all of Pope Francis's critics go to the Latin Mass, therefore let's nuke the traditional Latin Mass, tit for tat. That's what people say. I think the true story, I think the real reason it happened is in 2020 we had COVID. And we were told, don't go to Mass, stay at home, live stream it at home. And people did that. In the first week, they watched their local parish live stream Mass. And then the second week on YouTube, they started seeing, you might like this. And they clicked on it and they saw a solemn high Mass for the first time. Or they haven't seen one. If they were an older person, they hadn't seen one in decades. And people started streaming and discovering the traditional Latin Mass. Because think about it. If you just live in a Midwestern diocese and you don't have a traditional Latin Mass, or maybe the traditional Latin Mass is 2 hours away, you're never going to see it. But during COVID, everybody started to see it. Everyone got interested. They went online. Where can I see this? Where can I go? And in some places, I've talked to traditional priests. In some places, attendance increased sixfold. 600% increase. And there was a renaissance in traditional liturgy, traditional Latin Mass. About this time also, the traditional Catholic social media space kind of came to fruition as well. I mean, if you remember back in 2015, 16, 17, 18, who was on YouTube? Bishop Barron, me, Church Militant. There weren't a lot of people. By 2020, 2021, there were a lot of people in this space. It blew up. And so that was 2021. That was a devastating hit. 2022, in December, Pope Benedict XVI died. In April 2025, Pope Francis died. And in July 2025, Diane Montagna leaked the real bishop's Latin Mass report, which was overwhelmingly positive. We see the report, we see the summary, and it's like, it's great for vocations. There isn't disunity. The parishes are active. The parishes are active with the diocese. It's complementing our work as shepherds, as bishops in the diocese. Go read the thing. Go read what Diane Montagna reported on. Go to her Substack and read the summary that the bishops gave. It's glowingly positive. You read that and you're like, and then Francis said, no, it was negative, but it was positive. And so everyone has whiplash. Either Pope Francis was lying to us or we've got a fake document. And my friends, it's been shown over and over, we have a real document. Something shadowy happened in 2021. And we're living in the aftermath. So now that brings us to today's topic. Given all that's happened during this timeline, which goes back to 1969, will Pope Leo XIV intervene? Will he unleash the traditional Latin Mass once again? That's today's topic, and I'm going to give you my take on that now in 3 points. Before I do, I'm going to honor today's second sponsor, and that is Birch Gold. As you know, your savings are eroded through inflation. And we have nations, the BRICS nations, who are seeking to undermine the US dollar as the reserve currency. They actually had a meeting a couple weeks ago. I reported on it. They are going to try to replace the US dollar with gold. And gold is at all-time highs. I've been a long-term investor in gold, and I'm very grateful that I've been involved in gold. And if you want someone that you can trust, I'd encourage you to reach out to Birch Gold. They can send you a free info kit, the 2025 Birch Gold info kit. No obligation, right? Not going to push you, but you need to know what's happening in the world, and you need to understand what's going on with fiat currency and what's going on with the US dollar. I don't know if you noticed, but if you go to, I don't know, you just stop at a Dairy Queen or a McDonald's or something, and you want a hamburger and a fry and a Coke, they're like, that'll be $13. And you're just sitting there thinking, what happened to the dollar? Why is inflation out of control? Especially when we hear from Trump, oh, it's under control, it's under control. I don't know about you. It doesn't seem like it's under control. And so one of the best things that you can do, and one of the things our family does, is to invest in gold. And Birch Gold can help you with that, whether it's investing in physical gold, whether that's transferring your 401k or your IRA and diversifying into gold. And they have great reviews. They've helped thousands of people, and they've helped a lot of people in my audience. So in order to learn more and get the free gold info kit, just text my name, Taylor, Taylor, to 989898, and you'll receive a free info kit from Birch Gold. Educate yourself. This is free education. So again, text the number 989898 and text the word Taylor, Taylor, and you can be in contact with them, and they'll send you that free info kit. It's an important time, I think, this summer with the BRICS meeting and with countries like Russia and India and China and others trying to create a unstable environment and breaking links with the US dollar and then investing in gold. Be smart. Learn about what's happening, protect your savings, and reach out to Birch Gold. Text my name, Taylor, to 989898 and receive your free info kit. I've also included the link to Birch Gold in the show notes and in the pinned comment below. You can also just click on that and go directly over there. Again, text Taylor to 989898 to receive your free info kit. Birch Gold. All right. Here's what I think is going to happen, or here's three things that could happen. All right. The first is Leo completely overturns Traditiones Custodes and reinstates Summorum Pontificum. That is my preference. That is what I think should happen. I think it is a fatherly and pastoral response to the leaked document that Diane Montaigne has revealed. I can see, support for that in that he has, Pope Leo, that is, has publicly supported Cardinal Burke, and Cardinal Burke is seen as the number one guy amongst the cardinals for the traditional Latin Mass. They seem to have a good friendship. Pope Leo XIV has written and said glowing things about Cardinal Burke. I don't think Pope Leo would keep Traditiones Custodes on the books for the next 20 years, given his relationship with with Cardinal Leo Burke. And I also don't think Cardinal Burke would be supportive and enthusiastic about Pope Leo if Cardinal Burke knew that Pope Leo is going to push Traditiones Custodes for the next 2 decades. I don't see that as a true possibility. So I think there is a chance for Traditiones Custodes to be overturned. Here's why, if that is a possibility, here's why I don't think it's happened yet. It's early in the pontificate, and it would be a huge splash right away to do something that contradicts Pope Francis. Obviously, whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not, Pope Leo has, from day one until now, spoken generously, kindly, and approvingly of Pope Francis, even language suggesting that he's in heaven. All right, so if that's the case, that reveals that he probably wouldn't overturn Traditiones Custodes day one. But, and here's the but, the scandal surrounding the bishop's report that Diamontagna leaked, here's the but, that might enable him to go ahead and act on it based on new information, right? He could just say, well, I've also been speaking to bishops, and under the light of synodality, if he wanted to do this, right, and in consultation with the bishops, it's actually a very positive thing, and perhaps my predecessor was deceived. He can put icing on it however he wants. I am restoring Summorum Pontificum. All right. Honestly, I, at this point, think that there's a lesser chance of that than for option number 2. And I'm now going to give you option number 2. All right, option number 2 is he does something in the middle. I don't like this option, but I think given everything we've seen with Pope Leo in the first however many days we're in right now, I think we could see increased exceptions made. So as you know, down here in Texas, we had a parish in the Diocese of San Angelo, Texas. Their traditional Latin Mass was due to be cut off. You know, like when you don't pay your water bill and you come home and you turn the sink on and there's no water, and you try to flush the toilet, there's no water, and you're like, oh, we didn't pay the water bill, it's just gone. That's what was happening to traditional Latin Masses, right? It's like we're turning off the water on July 1st, except you couldn't get it back on. It was done. So Pope Leo, Rome, the Vatican, I don't know exactly who set it up, but they got a 2-year extension from the Vatican to continue to have the traditional Latin Mass. That precedent right there shows that Pope Leo could very well continue to make extensions, which I don't like. I don't like just here's an extension, here's an extension. He could put out a motu proprio that would not be as good as Summorum Pontificum for the traditional Latin Mass. He could put out a motu proprio that says, all priests of the Roman Rite can say the traditional Latin Mass, but for public celebrations or for parish traditional Latin Mass, it must be done in consultation with the local bishop. I believe this is option 2. I believe that this is the most likely outcome. I think that we could actually see this in the first year of the pontificate of Pope Leo XIV. Every priest can say a TLM. So you have a priest and he's saying a Mass on a Tuesday morning or a private Mass, or he can say the TLM. But if you're going to put it on the schedule and you're going to make it part of the parish life, it has to be done in consultation with the bishop. He could also say that seminarians can be trained in it, priests can use it, but bring in the bishops. That would be bad if you're in a situation where you have a bishop who's hostile to the traditional Latin Mass, and there are many of them. But my sense is, talking to people all over the United States and all over the world, during the years of Traditiones Custodes, it was already kind of like that. All priests knew that they had the right, if they wanted to just say traditional Latin Mass 24/7, no exceptions. But they also knew that if they were hardliners on that, they would lose their pastoral assignment, right? If they just told the bishop, hey, Summorum Pontificum, I'm doing our parish is having 4 TLMs every Sunday, no Novus Ordo. The bishop would be like, interesting idea, you're no longer the pastor of that parish. So already Summorum Pontificum practically had this situation. And so I can see Pope Leo, who is a canon lawyer, just writing a motu proprio that canonizes, and by canonize I don't mean make a saint, I mean puts into canon law, canonizes that situation where the bishops still have control over the public schedule of masses, but that priests in the Roman Rite are now free to celebrate the traditional Latin Mass. And I think the situation in San Angelo, Texas, happened just this month. No, it happened in June. Shows that that might be the way that Pope Leo is leaning. Now, here's the third option. All right. I don't like the third option. I don't like this. Third option is he confirms Traditiones Custodes for 20 more years. If he's Pope for 20 years, he's 69 years old. So let's just say he lives to be 90. That's 21 years. All right. I think if that is his plan, and I think this is not a likely situation. If that is his plan, he needs to come out and say it. Like, hey, everybody out there hoping for Summorum Pontificum, it's never going to happen. Learn to live with Traditiones Custodes. I have nothing else to say about this option. I think it's the worst option. I think it would be unpastoral. I think immediately all traditional Catholics and all conservative, even conservative right Catholics would immediately hold Pope Leo XIV in suspicion, and I think we would start a downward spiral of support, and I think things could get really, really messy. So I don't like this option. I actually think option number 2 is the most likely. I would give option number 2 a 70% chance of occurring. I would give option 1 a 20% chance, that is full restoration of Summorum. And then I would give upholding Traditiones Custodes for 21 years, I give that a 10% or less chance. Because you have to remember, the bishops now that are becoming bishops did not grow up before the council. They don't have this idea that the Novus Ordo Mass is the coolest thing ever, and that the traditional Latin Mass is bad. Now, there's a couple other variables that I want to throw in here. A huge variable is the SSPX. As you know, the SSPX began with Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre. He consecrated 4 bishops. 2 of those 4 bishops have passed away recently. That leaves 2 SSPX bishops left. And the SSPX is enormous now compared to what it was in 1988. I see different numbers, but a rough estimate is the SSPX has 700 priests. That's more than some of the normal religious orders in the Catholic Church. And they're growing very fast. And there's been talk for over 5 years now about the SSPX consecrating new bishops. And they have stated that they would go to Francis or now Leo and ask for that permission to licitly consecrate. That's a big deal. And in 1988, there wasn't social media. People weren't on the sidelines watching it. Right? If you wanted to watch the consecration, you had to actually go and watch the SSPX consecrations in a big white tent. Now it would be filmed, it would be video, there'd be iPhones, there'd be Instagram Reels, there'd be X, social media, YouTube videos. People will watch it. It will be enormous, and it will be very disruptive if the SSPX moves forward. And of course, it could also lead to all the old debates about excommunication and schism. Pope Leo doesn't want that. And I think one of the biggest wild cards here is the SSPX. And it's going to be very difficult for Leo to say no to the SSPX, to not provide any pastoral solution, and for them to move forward, and then for him to have to deal with that. I don't think they're ready for that. I don't think they want that. I think even Cardinal Ratzinger, who oversaw everything in 1988, I document all that correspondence and infiltration. I think Pope Benedict XVI, Cardinal Ratzinger, had remorse. I think he maybe even had some maybe some guilt about how that whole thing went down. And that's why he issued Summorum Pontificum. He wanted to smooth things out. And I really don't think Pope Leo XIV in 2025 or 2026, when the SSPX thing comes across the table, I don't see Pope Leo reads the thing from Fillet. Permission for a trad bishop. Let me close out some windows here. I got too much stuff open on the computer, I just got told. I don't see him getting the letter from Bishop Fillet and saying, yeah, forget these dudes. We're not helping them. And then saying, and let's watch what happens. I just don't see Pope Leo doing that. Now, there's another wild card. Okay, so that's a big wild card. The Vatican and Pope Leo do not want a trad war, and they do not want to do an SSPX battle. The other wild card is Pope Leo has announced that he wants to have some kind of meeting, conference, synod to discuss the liturgy. That discussion cannot happen unless we bring in the voices from the traditional movement. 95% of discussion about liturgy is all discussion with reference to the Second Vatican Council and the traditional Latin Mass. That's the discussion in 2025. I know they don't want it to be that. I know they wish that it would just go away. But the Novus Ordo started in 1970. It's still controversial. People still are critical, confused, hurt, betrayed. Some people are overly enthusiastic and think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. But that is the conversation. Nobody's going to come to a conference at the Vatican and say, sorry, I'm trying to close a window. Nobody's going to come to the conference and say, well, yeah, I would like to put before the floor a discussion on the merits of Eucharistic Prayer 3 versus Eucharistic Prayer 4. No one's going to do that. No one cares about that. Literally no one cares about Eucharistic Prayer 4 or 3. The only reason people care about Eucharistic Prayer 2 is because that's what everybody hears because it's the fastest, which is not a theological argument. So the bulk of any discussion about liturgy, reverence, the Eucharist, the Mass, it's going to be on this topic. And the fact that Pope Leo has already brought it up means, I believe, that he is willing to go there. He's willing to have those voices come. And there's going to be Cardinal Burke there giving a paper on the benefit of the traditional Latin Mass. So that's another wild card. And I think by Pope Leo suggesting that and talking about it, and within his first week, talking about how the Eastern churches can help us in the West restore mystery and reverence in our own liturgy, he's already opening the door to say, I'm open to having the talk about restoring reverence and mystery in the West. All right, now, third wild card, does that mean that Pope Leo just wants to improve the Novus Ordo, soup it up? Take it from a V6 to a V8 and put new tires on it, maybe a new transmission. Is that the plan? Maybe. Actually, that would be good. I think that would be great. And maybe he says, well, we're going to get rid of Eucharistic Prayer 2, 3, and 4. Maybe he says we're going to get rid of the memorial acclamation. Maybe he says we're just going to have penitential rite 1, and I want the 9-fold, not the 6-fold, ninefold Kyria in every Mass. And I'm allowing for the 7 prayers of the Roman offertory to be said. And I want more Latin. That would all be good, 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 good. Right? That would just be pushing the Novus Ordo closer to the TLM. I would still want to go to the TLM, but I would applaud those measures if he wanted to go that way. And I think in his own style and what he's already been doing as Pope, he has indicated moving in that direction. And maybe in his mind, he thinks, well, I'm going to move for the removal of confusing things. And so I was thinking about this. What if I were Pope Leo, or if Pope Leo asked me, he won't, I'm just a dad on a webcam. Hey, Taylor, what do you think? I know you're a traditional Latin Mass. I'm not trying to stop you to go, but if you wanted to soup up the Novus Ordo, what would you do? I'd say, okay, let's get rid of Eucharistic prayer 2, 3, and 4. Ain't nobody got time for that. All right. Remove the memorial acclamation, restore the traditional consecration of the chalice. Penitential rite 1, Confiteor and ninefold Kyria always. Allow for the Roman offertory, the 7 prayers of the Roman offertory, and either delete or make optional prayers of the faithful, because it's just, sometimes it can be a complete dumpster fire. And then allow ad orientem. And then tell everyone in the Catholic Church can receive on the knees. No more persecution on that. And commune on the tongue. That right there would change so much. And I realize, traditional Latin Mass people are like less than 1% of the global Catholic Church, 2 billion people. So those changes right there would hit billions of people, and they would not be that difficult to put into place. That could be good. And then I'll throw one other wild card in there, and then I'll go to your comments and questions. How are we doing on time? We're good. I think not only does he say you can have the TLM, you can have the traditional Latin Mass, I think it would be cool is next time they issue the Novus Ordo Missal, after the Novus Ordo Missal, just print the 1962 traditional Latin Mass in the Missal. Just put it in there. And they say, Pope, why did you put that in there? And say, well, it's part of the inheritance of the church. It's a great prayer. All the saints used it. And I wanted to print and put it in there. And like, does that mean people can use it? It's like, yeah, it's in the Missal. Just turn the page and there's TLM right there. It's in the Missal. Why not do that? Again, I want the whole Missal. I want the propers. I want the calendar. Trust me, don't take away my trad card just yet. But I think these are things that you could do to just sort of improve things. All right. I know y'all got comments. I know y'all got questions. The topic is, which is the most likely outcome? All right. I'm saying reversing Traditiones Custodes back to Summorum Pontificum. I'm giving that 20% chance. A document that restores the TLM but gives it into consultation with the bishops, I'm saying that's a 70% chance. And then I'm saying 10% or less that Pope Leo just coasts on full restriction Traditiones Custodes. Which option do you think is more likely? And then ask me with your comments and your questions. I'm going to begin with our super chats. Robert Lee is the first super chat today. Like it or not, priestly fraternities like SSPX or FSSP are not struggling with vocations. The bishops have to realize that. Yes, that was written in the bishop's report. All right. You tell guys, young men, 20-year-old men, 25-year-old men, come join the Diocese of Kansas City. Be a priest. Cool. That's awesome. Can I say the TLM? No, you can never say the TLM your entire life. Never wear a maniple. They'll be like, peace out. And they'll go and talk to the SSPX or the FSSP or the Institute of Christ the King, and you lose those guys. Bishops know that. It's in the bishop's report. We got a super sticker coming in from NGK. Thank you for that. We got Anthony. Will Pope Leo canonize Leo the 13th? I can see that happening. I love Leo the 13th. I was in Rome. I went and visited the tomb of Leo the 13th. Love that man. Great Pope. Susie Glaze. I thought being a member, we would get priority replies like we do in the super chats. I thought that when you were a member, you automatically were as well. I need to look into that, Susie. Let me know, Susie, in a comment, and then Daniel and Joey will take note of that, how it's appearing to them, and then how it's appearing to me, and we'll consult on that. I'm sorry for that. We'll figure it out. It's all good. He will make the change for financial reasons. When they took our Latin Mass away, I stopped donating to my parish and started donating to a small church in South Texas. I found that had daily Latin Masses off the books. Yeah, I think the finances are there, but I think it's bigger than finances. I think it's bigger than finances. It has to do with public perception and finances. All right. Yes, money is important in the church, but it also has to do with how things are perceived. And let's not forget that wild card of the SSPX. It would be a huge, it would be an oil leak, it would be everywhere. It would be so controversial, and it would break open so many wounds and so many debates. It could get really, really ugly. And I don't think the Vatican wants to deal with that. I think the Vatican will play nice with the SSPX. So we'll see. And then also, they say they're all about synodality and consultation and hearing the bishops and hearing the people. And Diane Montano releasing that leaked document, that's like, the cigar that blew up in your face. Like, it is so embarrassing for them. It is so, it makes the whole synodal process a joke. That we did synodality, and then according to our results, we banned the Latin Mass, and then everyone finds out later that actually synodality consultation with bishops was positive for the TLM, and then there was some kind of deception and you banned it. It makes the whole thing a joke. So it's money, but it's also this perception. And then Anthony asks again, will Pope Leo canonize? All right, heading into the comments, and I'm going to ask Joey and Dan for the members. If you see those and how they're presenting, let me know. And then also, if it's possible, mark anyone who is a member and mark them as a favorite. And then on my portal, I will see those as favorites. All right, so that might be a good way moving forward. If you see anyone who's a member, just mark them as a favorite, and I'll get in there. Okay, comments, questions. Here we go. I'm looking in here. Okay, so Carolyn Moore says, I like second option, but I think third option for those who have not attended a TLM is more feasible. I don't understand the second part of that sentence. The third option is just no TLM. So I don't know. But yeah, I think the second option is probably the most likely. I'm giving it a 70%, but I'm really looking for someone to challenge me here and let me know. Robert Lee says it's highly unlikely that Pope Leo does anything within his first year. I think that's probably a good possibility. In the op-ed, I talk about 2-year window because popes the whole first year are learning how to be a pope. You can't get like a master's degree on how to be a pope. You can't even get trained on the job because, well, I guess Benedict was around, but you can't even get trained on the job because the previous pope is gone. You have to learn how to be a pope, and you inherit the staff, right? The cardinals, the prefects from the previous pope, and they're all just like when you become a president. Oh, I'm your best friend. Don't trust that person. He's bad. You can trust me. Hey, you should sign this document. Hey, I don't think that person should work here anymore. And everybody kissing up to you, everybody lying to you. If I were Pope, well, I would be signing motu proprios early. But still, I would be very careful because I would know even the people who I think are my friends and my allies could come and bite me. And so I just think there's a lot of wisdom in being careful, delaying, figuring things out. Who are the right people to work with? Who are the wrong people to work with? Again, You see this with all politicians. They get duped by people in their own cabinet. So, yeah, he's got to be careful. I think it could be in the first year, but I say, like in the op-ed, I say second year. All right. J. Lowe says, your advice to Pope Leo, I think, was wild card number 3. That's the most pragmatic. What you were talking about doing away with in the wild card number 3. Yeah. Sorry, I thought you meant option number 3. Option number 3 is no more TLM, keep Traditiones Custodes. But wild card number 3, I got you. I'm doing too many numbers here. I should have done ABC, and that would have made everything a lot more easier for people. Got another super chat here from It's All Good. Even if the change is made, how sustainable is it long term to have almost 2 completely different versions of Catholicism coexist together? We have different views on almost all aspects of the faith. Yeah, I agree. It's a problem, but it has to be done. It has to be done, right? You can't continue the Catholic Church if Christ does not return for the next 100 years on the Novus Ordo Missal as it exists right now. Even liberals believe that. Even liberals want to update it and update it and update it. And then the traditionalists are like, no, this is not sustainable, right? So something has to happen. Something needs to happen. And honestly, I think with Pope Leo XIV, the option right now is coexist. They're not even on the menu of options is Pope Leo writes a motu proprio and encyclical banning the Novus Ordo on pain of sin and requiring every priest in the world to use the 1962 Missal. Even if he did that, I don't even know if that's even possible, right? You have priests, you have millions of priests who are not able to celebrate the traditional Latin Mass. You have entire, maybe even nations in which that would not be implemented. So I think Pope Leo, by his style, a lot of people think Pope Leo's doing this to trick us, that he's sitting around at night drinking an appletini and saying, did you see all those trads defending me because I wore the stole? Or I said Dominus Vobiscum and they all believe me. And they think it's a super villain. I don't think it is. I think he knows that the liturgy is a big problem and it's going to fall on his lap. And he's going to have to find a solution. So those are the options, the 3 options. I haven't seen anybody, maybe I'm missing, I haven't seen anybody say, I think your percentages are right or wrong. Is option number 2 70%? Am I way off on that? Robert Lee says, let's face it, money screams, so if the Vatican discovers that adding the SSPX will unleash a gold mine, the SSPX will be back in communion. Yeah, I mean, it's not all money. Money is important. But there's a lot of people in the Vatican, if you said, let's just be crazy. Let's say Elon Musk became Catholic and he was SSPX. That was his persuasion. And Elon Musk flew on a private jet to the Vatican. And he said, if you give the SSPX new bishops and regularize the SSPX, make everything good to go, I will donate $1 billion to the Vatican every year for the next 30 years. Or $1 billion in Bitcoin every year. Or he just said, I will float the annual budget every year. There would still be, Robert, people in the Vatican who would be like, no, don't let those SSPXers back in. No, we don't like them. Forget the money. We're not doing it. There would still be people who are stuck in their ideology, even when faced with that much money. All right? Epcot, Ethan, the easiest solution is simply to have the TLM in English as the only mass. No, that is not a solution. It is against what Pope Leo has done. All right, so you're going against Pope Leo. It is against the Council of Trent. And if you just want to be a stickler, it's against Vatican II. Because Sacrosanctum Concilium says Latin should be preserved in the liturgy. So, no, TLM in English is not the solution. All right, I want people to stop saying that. That is not the mind and the heart of the church. It's not even the mind and the heart of the current Pope, Pope Leo. It's not even the mind and the heart of Vatican II, whether you love it or hate it. Latin is integral to our worship. Abolishing Latin is wrong. No dice, no go. Do not collect $200. No. Epcot Ethan, that's not it, bro. That's not it. Junopolis says, local language TLM would be interesting, though I know the hardliners will say Latin is absolutely necessary for the TLM. There is a Old Church Slavonic version of the TLM. I guess you call it the TSM. Bishop Athanasius Schneider celebrated it. I don't think everyone would oppose that, but retention of Latin in the Roman Rite is part of our patrimony. Everybody, here's the problem. Everybody thinks everybody's stupid. And if you say Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Christe eleison, Christe eleison, Christe eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison. That's 9 prayers right there. We say it in every traditional Latin Mass. People think that people are so stupid they can't understand what that means. Kyrie eleison means Lord have mercy, and Christe eleison means Christ have mercy. Congratulations. All the 5-year-olds know this. All right? That's Greek, by the way. It's not Latin. The Latin Mass is unique in that the Latin Mass has Greek, Hebrew, and Latin in it. Greek, Hebrew, and Latin. Mostly Latin, but it has Greek and Hebrew in it too. If I say to a group of people, Dominus vobiscum, and the answer is et cum spiritu tuo, people aren't stupid. They're like, what does this mean? Dominus vobiscum? I'm leaving this place. I'm becoming Protestant. No, you just tell people, Dominus vobiscum means the Lord be with you. And then you say et cum spiritu tuo, and that means in with your spirit. Oh, okay. You can literally be illiterate. You can be, it's kind of funny, literally be illiterate. You could be 6 years old and you can understand this, right? It's not that the entire world has an IQ under 50 where basic things where you're like, Gloria in excelsis Deo means glory to God on the highest. And they're like, what? I don't even understand what you're talking about. All right? It's not that difficult. And I engage people online in the comments and they're just like, they presume that it has to be 100% vernacular. It doesn't. I guarantee you, if the priest at the end of Mass said, Ita missa est, and everyone said, Deo gratias, that is, the Mass is finished, thanks be to God. If you did that for 5 Sundays, even the 4-year-olds are going to know what it means and how to do it. All right, so we got to give people a little bit more credit. All right, I know in America, most of us speak just English, and we can't even imagine that we would say a word in another language. When you go to Europe, it's not that difficult. They know some French, maybe they know Spanish, maybe German, maybe Italian, but English, Spanish, French, it works. All right, so let's not say, we have to dumb it down to the lowest possible level. Super chat came in from Luis Garcia. Thank you very much. And that's all the super chats. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Please like it. Please share it on Facebook and X. Please subscribe. And please visit our sponsors today. Visit our new sponsor, iCatholic Mobile. doing great work. Switch over, support Catholic Company again. Their profits go to supporting traditional Catholic work and orders. So iCatholic Mobile, and you can contact them at, let me give you the number real quick. It's all below in the show notes. I closed it. It's in the show notes below. Click on that. And then also Birch Gold to get your info kit today. Make sure you're praying your rosary every single day. Don't skip a day. If you do skip a day, start over again. But pray your rosary every single day. Find a traditional Latin Mass. Figure out what it's all about. If there's not a traditional Latin Mass near you, go on YouTube and watch a traditional Latin Mass. Watch a high Mass. Just check it out. All right? See what it's all about. Go to confession. Read your Bible every single day. And until next time, remember, our Lord Jesus Christ says you're the light of the world and the salt of the earth. So go out there and be salty. God bless and Godspeed. I might do one more show this week, but next week I will be off on family vacation. I might video from location. I might not. So next week, if you see less videos, we will be posting shorts all next week, but if you see less long-form videos, I'm okay. I'm just on vacation. All right. God bless and Godspeed.